Welcome everyone to another NASCAR Heat Evolution setup video. In this video, we'll be taking a look at Phoenix. But before we jump straight into the setup itself, let's take a look at the AI speeds. At 105% or max AI difficulty, the AI will qualify on the pole at around a 26.7 to 26.8. And the race pace, the fastest laps for the leaders will be around 27.1 to 27.2. Now I can tell you that the setup that I'm showing you in this video, I was able to run 27.2s to 27.4s pretty regular, with the biggest difference being how you treat the braking. You want to get off the gas and on the brake early, going into the corner a little earlier than you think you need to, just so you will be able to get the car down to the bottom, get it settled, and get back to the gas, all keeping the car as close to the bottom of the track as you possibly can. The closer to the bottom, the quicker the lap times will be, and the better your corner entry and exit will be, as you'll be able to carry more speed. At the end of the video, after our discussion on the setup, I'll be showing a few laps with anywhere from a 27.2 second lap to a 27.3 second lap. So it'll also give you an idea of a few different grooves. One of them, if you keep it right on the bottom, another if you let it drift up in the corner about a half groove to one groove. Again, just giving you an idea of some different ways to run the track. There's definitely more speed here, and I think it all depends on the braking. For some of you who may not have watched the previous video that I posted about the channel update, I'm using the new Logitech G920, or it's new to me anyway, and having some trouble with the braking. So at this point, I've got it a lot better than it was at the beginning. So I have no doubt that some of you guys will be able to run faster laps than I did. And I really like the setup, so I feel pretty comfortable throwing this out here and letting you guys take it from here, as I think it'll already run comfortable laps at or very near the front with the AI at max difficulty. And I feel pretty confident that some of you guys are going to run even faster than that. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the setup. The shock setting, nothing new here, 10s across the board. So let's move on to the weight settings. We are once again on an oval, so the left weight is maxed out at 54.2. Front weight is at 50.2. I tested several variations on this, all the way up to 51, 51 and a half. Just trying to work on the braking, getting in the corner. Finally decided that it was much more stable and much more fast if I brought the front weight back down to a 50.2, much closer than to 50%, which would be considered neutral weight setting. All right, wedge. Normally I like to run better than 50%, up around 51%. On this particular track, I found that I just needed this wedge setting to be much lower, just to allow the car to rotate very quickly through the center of the corner and be able to get back to the gas. So I settled on a 49% setting. However, if you find that the car still isn't turning good enough, feel free to lower that even more. If you find that the car is getting too loose with you, then this is something that you can increase, and it should help stabilize the car. Both the front and rear ride height settings are both at their normal minimum, so nothing changed there. Springs in the front end of the car. Left front and right front springs have a 100-pound rear spring split, with the left front at the maximum of 1,200 pounds, with the right front being just under that at 1,100 pounds. Now I can tell you that I didn't want to use too much of spring split in the front, simply because under hard braking, I didn't want the car to pull hard, in this case to the left. So I settled on a small split there, but using a stiffer left front does help the car a little bit on corner entry to rotate. If you're having trouble with the car being too loose under heavy braking, then you can try either to lower the left front or raise the right front, and that should stabilize the car on corner entry under heavy braking. The rear of the car, 300 pounds in the left rear, 500 pounds in the right rear. Again, it's a little bit more split than I've traditionally used, but again, I found I needed it for the car to rotate at this particular track. Tire pressure settings, I've gone with 20 pounds on the left sides and 30 pounds on the right sides. I would have preferred to use a bigger split there between the left and right rather than just the 10 pounds that you see here. But I found that this lower setting of just 10 pounds of split really helped stabilize the car on entry and exit rather than the car getting extremely loose on me as I get on and off the throttle pretty aggressively. So that setting helps stabilize the car. But again, if you want to help the car turn, this is another thing that you can do to help it do so by increasing that split. Move the right sides up maybe to 35 or 40, test it out and see if you like that. Let's move over to the miscellaneous settings. We'll start with camber. Both the left front and right front are maxed out at 10 degrees, plus 10 degrees on the left front, minus 10 degrees on the right front. Now this does, as I've seen several times in the comment section, people remarking that how the car pulls hard to the left. This is one of the reasons for that. And so if you reduce the left front and or right front camber, the car won't pull quite as hard to the left. There are other settings that are responsible for this, of course, such as left weight. Anytime you have the car's weight more toward the left side as opposed to split perfectly down the middle at 50%, then the car will pull to one side. So that's a couple of things you can do if you want to help the car, go easier down the straightaway. But just keep in mind, it will slow you down when you get to the corner. Front sway bar is at 1.5. I had actually tried reducing that number for this track, but again, the stability just wasn't there like I wanted it, so I stayed with 1.5. But if this is another setting that if you want to help the car rotate more, then lower this number. And if the car seems to be a little bit, if it over rotates, gets loose too easily, then you can increase this number. Rear sway bar, didn't use that for this track. Left and right side track bar, I used, as you can see, no split here with 12-inch setting on both. Again, that's for stability. The more splits you end up putting in the track bar, the more the car will tend to get loose, particularly on exit if you use a lower left side than right side. But again, if you need help on corner entry or middle of the corner, if the car is a little bit too tight, then you can increase the left side, and that'll help the car to rotate better, or lower it if it's a little bit too loose on entry or through the middle. And if you're having trouble getting the car to rotate and really turn for you on corner exit, then you can increase the right side track bar. And then correspondingly, if the car is getting too loose on corner exit, then you can lower the right side track bar, and that should help with that. Just keep in mind how much split you have between the left and right sides. Brake bias was very important at this particular track because I'm heavy on the brakes going into the corners. I settled on 72%. I would have preferred to use a little bit lower setting simply because the main idea here, once again, is stability under braking, because if you're going to be around other cars, now if you're just running laps by yourself on the track, then it's no big deal if you can't hold your exact line going into and out of the corners. But if you're running around other cars, it's crucial that you're able to hold your line. And in this case, the 72% brake bias allowed me to do that. It allowed me to have full control of the car under heavy braking. So I finally settled on that. Now, if you want the car to rotate a little bit better under heavy braking, then you would lower this number down to 70% or even lower. And if the car is still getting a little squirrely on you, a little bit loose going into the corner, then you can raise this number up towards 75. Grill tape at 0%. As I mentioned in a separate video, I've not yet seen that this does anything for the handling of the race car, so I haven't used it. The wheel lock and steering offsets, not traditionally a big deal for me, although I did move, in this case, the steering offset up to the 0.15 that you see. This kind of helps with the pulling to the left down the straightaway and how your steering wheel is oriented as the car is doing that down the straightaway. So you can play around with that number and see how it affects the car's handling on the straightaway. Let's move on to the gear settings. I didn't mess with first through fourth gears. I go straight to the rear end ratio for the most part. In this case, I stuck with 4.11, which is basically max RPMs of around 9,000 or so going into the corner. So this is the maximum. Feel free to reduce that number. That will lower your RPMs both on the straightaways and through the corners, and can change the handling for the car. Traditionally, lowering this number to something, say around 3.8, 3.9 or so, will loosen the car in the corner simply because the engine is turning fewer RPMs. All right, hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, as I mentioned before, for a few laps around Phoenix, anywhere from a 27.2 to a 27.3 lap time. And stay tuned for more NASCAR Heat Evolution.
Clear low. Car head is pitting. That was a great lap.